I've been building the G-Force Xtrada 4-wheel drive. It's been interesting. I like the quality of the car, very, very good, but there's just been a couple of little annoyances. However, I'm sure we can get by. Hello, welcome back to part 2 of, I'll just bring the box over here, the G-Force Xtrada 4-wheel drive buggy build. Now, those of you who managed to stay awake during part 1, so that's probably only 2 or 3 of you, I'm going to give you a bit of an update on what's happened since then. Now, we'll go up here. You may remember I pointed out that there was a whited out area here in the instructions where you couldn't see that it showed you to put the pin through on the front hub. Well, I went onto the G-Force Facebook page and they've already put an update on this, and they've shown, oh sorry, look, that's wrong there, here's what it should look like. So they've caught on to that very, very quickly, which is a great thing. All kudos to G-Force. Now, the other thing is these little shoulder screws. You'll remember using a 2mm driver, it wasn't working. It just didn't fit. And there's maybe 6 or 8 of these in the car, I think. I managed to get the 2 in the steering bell cranks, which are in here, but I tried to do them on the front suspension on the hubs and it just wasn't working at all. And so I finished off the build there in part 1. It was an hour long anyway, you'd already all had enough anyway. And I took one of these screws home. Tried all my drivers thinking maybe we had a dodgy driver here, but tried about 3 or 4 2mm, didn't work. And it had me going. I'm thinking, what's going on? Then I picked up this driver at home. It fitted perfectly. And if I go up here, this is a 5/64. This is an imperial driver. So somewhere along the line, all these little shoulder screws, I'm not sure what the thread is. It looks like a metric thread, but it's impossible to tell without measuring it. But this hole is definitely 5/64. I bet, I can't remember the last time I used this. Maybe, actually it says diff here, so I think this is the adjustment one on possibly one of my RC10s. But either way, that's the story. I suspect this might be a supplier issue, because I'd imagine that G-Force would buy in most of these fasteners from other places, and it's possible that they make imperial and metric, and there's just been a little bit of a mix-up, and some of them have been supplied with imperial parts. It's a weird thing, and I'm really surprised that it's happened, but at least I've got the solution to it, because there's no way known I could have assembled the front suspension the way that it was. So I can now go back to where I left off, which was putting the C-hubs in, and now it's much easier. I can just move it around, screw it in, and we're good. If you get one of these kits, please let me know. Did you get an imperial shoulder screw, or did you get a metric one? I haven't reached out to G-Force yet. I'll probably do that later and say, hey, do you realize this is happening? But as you can see, you saw me struggle with these in the initial part of the build. Now it just goes straight in. And you're saying, oh, but TFG, if they're imperial, how come they go together? It's screwing into a plastic component, so it's cutting its own thread as it goes in, so it doesn't matter whether it's an imperial thread or a metric thread. It just works. So you saw me struggle for 5 minutes with this the other day. Now they just went straight in. It's a little bit tight, so I might just back this off. Okay, That's the left hand side done. Now we'll move on to the right hand side. Just check the orientation there, that's okay. Let's get all the bits. Where's that hub? There. Put the bearing in. Drive shaft. That's better. I'm glad I discovered that, because otherwise I would have got it all together and then realised I had to pull it apart again. That's another good reason to make sure that you check the orientation of everything before you do the final assembly. Now it's through. That's good. Now there was a tiny little screw that had to go in there. That's this one. And this is what holds the hinge pin in. Done. Now it's back to my 5/64 shoulder screws. Never thought I'd be saying that with a Japanese kit. These kits are already very popular in Japan. Seen them appearing on a lot of Facebook posts. So a lot of people very happy with them. I think the Masami Association definitely helps their. I mean, we all know, you know, Masami, an RC god. I doubt there will ever be anyone that can compete with the amount of things that he's won. And in just 2 weeks' time, he's pretty much the star attraction at the Associated Vintage event. So, and he's been putting a lot of practice in too. See on his personal Facebook pages, he's been all over the place practicing on carpet surfaces, rough dirt surfaces. He's been putting a lot of time in. So he's not just going there to make up the numbers. It'll be very interesting to see how he goes. Hoping there's some actual coverage of it online so we can watch it, because it's going to be very, very popular. A lot of over 500 entries. So, yeah, one day they'll get as good as a vintage bat. Oh, did I say that? I think I did. All right, let's put these onto the chassis. Right hand side, left hand side. I'm doing this slightly out of order. That's my preference. The inner hinge pins. It's been a long time since I've actually built a buggy as such. I'm used to building mainly touring cars, so it's weird to build something that's so big and wide. Now, turnbuckles, all pre-built. Happy man, very happy TFG. I just hate doing those. I don't know why. I just do. Looking ahead to make sure I've got it right. This will go in there, and that's a 3x14, which I reckon is this one. I'll move the 5/64 out the way. Don't want to be using that. It goes in there. Now the inner one, that just pushes through. I was screwing it, but it's actually just a push through. And okay, that's good. Now the steering link is here. Now you'll note, if I hold that up like that, there's a bit of a kink on there. So that's bent slightly, so it's angled to get the correct orientation. So screws in. Could use a little bit more light here. It doesn't help when all the bits are black. Now that screws into the front of the bell crank using a got to remember, I didn't pre-do anything on this kit. I've just started it from scratch the same way that you would, with no prior knowledge of how it's going to go together. So I'm going to get things wrong. Actually, the fact that they've angled the end of this ball joint is good. They've been thinking about it. It's optimizing the geometry, in that you're not relying on the ball joint itself to provide that angle. You're still getting full movement on that ball joint. So if I go over here now, let's put that back in there. I'm actually going to put this one in first before I do the link onto the arm. What I might do, pull that out of the way just to give me a bit better access. So we'll get that in. Put the drive shaft back in. There we go, and the top one is, and I've already forgotten, it's a 3x14 here, not there. This is a steering one. Oh, God, I'd like to say it's early in the morning so I'm allowed to make mistakes, but it's not really early in the morning. In fact, it's coming up for lunchtime. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need food. Maybe I need Walker's Donuts. Now we're talking. That's done. Now the upper link, that was a 3x20, and I ran it through the inner hole. There's 3 choices here. We'll worry about whether it's the right choice sometime later on when we get to run the car. And as I said the other day, I intend to run the car. My intention is to try and paint the body shell this weekend, because it's Friday here in Melbourne. So I'll try and get it done so that it's not all ready to go and just waiting on me to paint it, which is what happens with most of my cars. You may have seen me build the lunchbox at like about a month ago. It's still not painted because I've got other people wanting cars painted and they get priority over my own cars. Alright, we've got a front end here. We just need something to locate these hinge pins, and the front hinge pin brace is here. So that's going on across here, and we just need 2 screws to go through into there. They are 3x8. Now I note that the pins are still free. I suspect there's something else that's going to go on there later. Yeah, that'll be that, which will be holding the pins in. So I'm not really sure they need an 8mm one there. Time to change hands. Okay, just going to check, make sure everything's free moving there, and it is. That's good. This locates here, and these little stops here are what keeps the hinge pins in. Pretty easy to work out which screws these are going to be. Now, the instructions say that the front shocks go on next. But I hear you say, TFG, you opted not to build the shocks. They were the first step in assembly. And you said, no, I'm going to do these later. How are you going to put the shocks on? Unless you're going to, oh, I thought I'd scratch my carbon wedding ring. How are you going to put them on? Well, as things happen in movie land, there's always some magic. Magic is, I've already built 3 of the shocks this morning before we started filming, because the last thing you want to see is me building 4 shocks. It's boring. Now, I've left one, which I'm going to do on camera somewhat soon, but I built 2 rear and 1 front, so we can put this one on. I can tell you now, these are quite nice. They don't feel too bad at all. So we'll put one of these on now with this little that's the top mount. Now the bottom mount is okay. I was supposed to have put these in earlier. I didn't. Alright, I can do it now with my handy little shock pliers. Oops, went a bit too far through. There we go. Now we've got the 3x14. I'm putting it in the outer hole. We can always move this later. Okay, and the outer hole is where it says in the manual anyway. Okay, we have front suspension. Apart from 1 shock, here's the other one over there. And in fact, what I might do, so that we can complete that, is build this shock now. I've got it sitting here. I've already done one. These are largely conventional, but there's a little cool thing I discovered when I built the others. So we've got an O-ring that goes on here. We need a little bit of crap in here. One O-ring, one spacer, another O-ring, a little bit more shock grease. Doesn't hurt to overload this. There's another washer. And then there's this little aligner. We put that on and then screw up the shock bottom. Now, here's a bit of a cool thing. Now the length of the threads here is different. it's shorter at one end than it is at the other. So when you're putting the piston on, it goes on the shorter end. Now, putting the piston on, this is where I discovered something cool. Now, Brett thinks he's seen this on another car. I don't recall it, but I'm not even sure if you can even see that. But the piston isn't held on with E-clips. It's held on with a nut, and the nut is molded into the piston. So that might help you see that there. So there's no fiddling around with stuff. I'll just get that started. I'll do it a bit like that. Get the shock plier out to hold the shaft. So that's held. And now we just screw that on. Like I said, I've not seen that before on any other kit. I could well be wrong, but I think that's brilliant. It works really, really well. We're now going to just lube the threads a little bit so they don't chop it up as we push it through. Now, we're wiping the lube off. What I always do, hold the shock body, just turn it around a bit and just move the shaft. This lines up the O-rings and the spacers and everything inside here, so you get a much smoother operation. Now, back in the shock pliers. We need to put the ball end on. Just keep a watch on it, take it up as far as you can, but don't push too hard because it will screw past where you think it should go. So I try and line it up with the end of the threads and do that with all of them. Now, there's an O-ring goes on here at the top. If I pull that up and down, that feels pretty good. Kit supplied, 400 weight CST. We'll fill it up. At this moment the piston is at the bottom, so there's going to be a bit of air in there. So let's I'm not sure whether the camera can see that, but there's quite a few little air bubbles that are coming out. Now, normally I would let this sit for an hour or so to make sure all the bubbles came out. That doesn't make for really exciting watching for you people. So I'm just going to screw it on now. I've pulled the shaft all the way down. The O-ring's on. I'm going to screw the top on, but just a couple of turns, not till it's tight. Then push the shaft up, just in case there's any oil, the excess oil. There isn't, it hasn't come out, so we'll tighten that up now. That feels pretty good. We'll put on the upper collar and the spring, and the bottom collar. Going to call that done, apart from squeezing this through. Again, pushed it a little bit too far, but that's okay. Alright, we can now finish off the front end. top. This is good. I'm looking over there on the side and there aren't any bits left over, in hardware terms anyway. That's good. Means I haven't screwed up too much. And if I have, we'll just edit that bit out. You'll never know. Absolutely never know. Done. That's looking good. So we're at this stage now. Page 6, assembly of the front bumper and damper, or dumper and bamper. I'm not sure. Could be either. We get to open a new bag. Bag E. Let's find bag E. Bag E. Alright. Here it is. Rear gearbox lower. I'm just orienting that to make sure it's right. And we need this. Now, the instructions say pay careful attention to the orientation of this. So I've got that here, and that is pretty much on the money. And it appears to go there. Yep. There's another one of these white squares here where it's blanked out some of the instructions, the same as earlier. Not sure whether G-Force have picked this one up yet. And this is a 3x10. Ah, 3x10. Anyone that's built a Tamiya kit will know, particularly a Tamiya Mini. 3x10 self-tapping screws. They were everywhere. These are all machine screws, but they're actually tapping their way into the plastic, which is a bit of an anachronism. But it seems to work alright in this case. The plastic, which I still think is probably carbon reinforced, is soft enough to screw into, but still quite commendably stiff. Let's bring the chassis in. We'll turn it around because I think that's how it goes. Yes, it is. And that fits in there. That's actually really nice. It's really nicely designed. We'll do these top ones first. Okay, that's good. Let's turn it over and get the countersunk ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. If nothing else, it's proved that I can count. All I can do, 1, 2, 3, 4, so I can do it in German. Probably more appropriate to do it in Japanese. Except I don't know it. I'd love to be involved in actually designing a car like this, or just cooperating with it, with someone, and doing all the CAD stuff for it like I used to do for big cars back in the old days. Oh, I think those days are behind me. I just come in here to Hearns a couple of days a week, put some cars together, serve you good people out in the shop, abuse a few of them. We have a good time. And even though Hearns don't sell this kit, although it's always possible we may do so in the future, I don't know. We do this as a bit of a community service because we know people go, geez, that's a nice car, I wonder what it's like. Well, you can find out because I bought one and we're building it for you. So I'm really keen to drive this. So let's get that. We will get the gear diff, which I assembled previously. That's ready. Now we've got another set of little baby rollers here. I'm not sure which shaft this is. It can't be that one. It's got to be this one. Yep. Oh, the TFG big fat fingers don't work in putting together little bits like this. I need Masami here to help me out. That's good. We'll put, already got the ball bearings on there. So we're starting to see here how this works. You've got a belt coming up from the rear diff up to this idler shaft here, which then takes it through to the front, and you can see the whole thing goes over the top of the battery and the motor. So that's good. Now we're putting the idler shaft together. It's nice they've included a little thing here. This is a plan view showing the orientation of the belts, and that the short belt is on the right hand side, the long belt is on the left hand side. So they've made it pretty clear, and the drawing here also shows it. So there's a lot of little things that will show you how to get it right. So let's put the idler shaft together. Here it's already installed, but the actual assembly of it is here. So I'm going to say, let's try and move this back into your focus so you can see as well. So what's here goes in on that end. So let's just put that on. And this on. Then the pin. Actually no, the pin has to go in after. Let's pull that back. Ah, wrong way around. Ah, TFG. It's alright for you lot to laugh. Oh, actually it is. Right, that goes there. Now, the other, see this now matches up with that. Now what I can see now is that this pin goes in here. Then that, now this is right. Then this, then the other ball bearing. Now, this now looks more like that. So I'm happy with that. It's finally got it right. It's not very well explained, I'll be honest. The first area that I consider a real issue in the instructions. They could have done it better. Anyway, this goes here like that. That goes here like that, and it all drops down, and we have the drivetrain. Now I put the upper gearbox section on. You can just see that way up in there. How that's going to stay in there when I tip this upside down to put it on, I don't know. That could be interesting. Now we've done that. It's going to stay in there because there's a little button head screw that holds it in. Well done, G-Force. That is very clever. They'd fixed the problem before I even found it. Alright, so that's done that. I've checked everything. There's that little screw that I was working on. There's the pin with the ball bearing, which is also pictured here. And we can now flip this over. I think this is the sort of thing that's going to take like 8 hands. No! Finally, one for TFG. That all went together nicely. Just a quick turn around and make sure everything's good. So that's that. And we need 3x8 button head screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they are what holds everything together. 2, 3, 4. As always, you'll see me just put it in part of the way first just to locate everything, and then do the final buttoning up now. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. You've put up with me for a little bit over an hour. We've got the front suspension on with the shocks done. Got the rear gearbox assembled, the drivetrain's working nicely, it's all looking good. Next time around in part 3 we'll finish the rear suspension and everything, and we should be able to polish this thing off. Until then, I'm Tony from Hearns. This is the G-Force Xtrada 4-wheel drive buggy. I'll see you next time.